we may forget that our fundamental purpose as astrologers in helping clients is to improve their lives. If we're not doing that, then what are we doing? And this improvement has different dimensions. What we're discussing today is that dimension centered in the heart, where simply by focusing your own attention in the heart, you can deepen your connection with your client. And this is to do with what you do with your attention. If, for example, I speak now and I put my attention in my third eye, you'll see that the tone of voice that I'm using is different from if I actually put my attention in the heart. And that difference of tone registers with the client. They can hear the difference. So if you try to remember to be heart-centered when you're delivering your commentary, that tone will make the world of a difference. Very often, the clients that we meet, and when I say client, I don't necessarily mean somebody who pays you because you're a professional. It might be your family member or a friend. Let's just call them clients. But in every case, it's the same. It may be that you're the only person who brings them to a point of self-reflection. Not very many people have that in their lives. Maybe they pay a counsellor, in a rare case. Relatively rare. It's just not what normal people do. Not around the world. There may be a greater likelihood in certain countries, but most people don't consult a counsellor every week or every month. So you may be the only person they have to talk to. And we need to remember this, that your listening skills are more important than the content of your delivery. I know how controversial that might sound, but it is the case. People want to be heard. They have not been heard to the limit of their need to be heard, in most cases, ever, and nowhere near it. So even though we're talking about astrology, that could well be seen meaningfully as that which legitimizes the involvement together. In other words, an excuse. And it's the excuse that the client has to unburden themselves of feelings of whatever, lack of faith, dismay, depression, confusion. They want to be heard that they have these feelings. And primarily, the primary concern we have as astrologers is to listen. Now, the second important thing to do is to have them feeling good at the end of the session. And that won't happen if you spend most of the time talking about their problems and their imperfections of being. It just won't happen. You can mention that. In fact, you must mention that. Or the role as an astrologer is lost. We have to point out that this is a potential area that might be a concern, might be ready to develop now, might be a way to improve. We won't do that unless we identify the problem. But to do that gently and kindly, and then to spend a lot more time focusing on the potential answer, which we've discussed in the past. Now, another thing that we can do, which is very much to do with giving attention, is to be enthusiastic about their chart and to be really interested in them, the person. Not the chart, but the person. Although we're enthusiastic to look at the chart and see all the interesting possibilities and lovely connections that they've got, and they may have some ones which you consider difficult, it doesn't mean that they do. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, but it doesn't have to be the case that because somebody's got what is considered a difficult transit or difficult aspect, that they see it that way. It may be your own lack of foresight, insight, optimism that puts a spin on it in a negative way. We don't do that. The spin that we put on things is to raise the client, to make them feel good about themselves. However they feel about themselves will eventually become how they act and how they attract. we raise the expectations, therefore, and suggest that these enthusiastic things we can see in the chart will inevitably, perhaps after some struggle and understanding and so on and so forth, but will inevitably lead them to a more fulfilled life. It is our duty as astrologers to see that. And we can only see that when we can look for it in a client. It's not enough just to be blasé about it, like everyone's fine, you'll be lovely. That won't work. They won't believe it. It's not credible. What is credible is if the attention that you give to them is exemplary. In other words, they've never had such good attention before. Not from a stranger, at least. And probably not from anyone. So you give them amazingly excellent attention, which means you look carefully, you listen carefully, you get them, and you enjoy that. Try and be enthusiastic about being with this person. And again, it's our duty to find something within that client about which to be enthusiastic. They'll know if it's sincere. So you have to find something that you like about them and focus on that. If you like the client, it's a very likely outcome that you're going to give them a better life that follows. So to recap, it's quite simple. Assume that the reason that they have come is not to learn about their chart, astrologically speaking. Just assume that. Assume that they've come because they want your attention. They want top quality, optimistic, positive attention. Also assume that there's a reason why they come now and try and find out what's going on in their lives right now. And most people will say, oh, there's no special reason. Nah, not true. There's always a reason. There's always a special reason in my experience. You can say, well, yeah, I can see the transit. You're coming to discuss this and that and the other transit. Yeah, that's true from your point of view, but not from theirs. They have come because they've had a situation in life which has left them feeling less than they want to feel, worse than they want to feel. That's why they've come. And that feeling might be a yearning for more understanding about the self. That's the most positive version I can think of. But it's more likely to be confusion or depression or difficulty in coping or struggling or grief or something very strong. That's why they've come. You have to assume that. So you listen. You're enthusiastic and you try and give them an optimistic way of seeing things. And you spin their perception of their own lives towards the light. That's magic. That's profound astrological magic.